Call to order this meeting of the Newberry Township Zoning Hearing Board. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight, we're hearing docket 22-01.
Mr. Chairman, before you begin,
Yes,
this is
sir.
our first meeting of the year, so you have to have a reorganization.
Oh, I didn't realize it was our first meeting.
It is. Because the first docket is number 01 for 20.
Thank you. That's a good point.
So you need a reorganization meeting, which you can call to order, and then handle business with regard to one, appointment of the officers, or election of the officers, I should say. Two would be an affirmation of the meeting night for 2022, that there's no changes in that, and then third, the appointment of the solicitor.
All right, we'll call to order the reorganization meeting for the Newberry Township Zoning Hearing Board. First order of business would be the election of officers. Chairman.
I'll nominate Eric for chairman.
Second.
I have a nomination and a second. Do we have any discussion?
No.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Eric Johnston is elected as chairman. Vice chairman.
I'll nominate Paul Fisher, vice chairman.
I'll second that nomination.
Anybody else?
Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, do we have can we have a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, Paul Fisher is elected as vice chairman. We also have
Secretary.
secretary, thank you, my brain's fading.
Is that all we need, is
Yeah.
a secretary? I'll nominate Brant Fink.
I'll second that.
We have a nomination and a second. Do we have any other nominations for secretary?
I'm just not.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none.
We should have just voted all on.
Brad Fink is elected as secretary. All right.
Meeting night.
Meeting night to affirm for the year, please.
And keep that the same, the fourth Monday of the month.
I think it works very well.
I'll make a motion to keep the meeting nights fourth Monday of the month for 2022
Fourth Monday of the month,
at 6 o'clock.
6 p.m. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the meeting, zoning hearing board meeting would be the fourth Monday of the month for the 2022 calendar year, and the meeting time will be at 6 p.m.
Guess that's it.
The last order of business is pursuant to the municipality's planning code, the board gets to appoint its solicitor for the year, so I respectfully submit my application for such. I do have a very nominal increase of $10 per hour to our hourly rate, which I haven't had in a long, long time.
make a motion to appoint Stanley for the solicitor for the township. What's your firm?
Caldwell and Kearns.
Caldwell and Kearns.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We will retain Stanley as our solicitor for the Newberry Township Zoning Hearing Board
Thank
for
you,
the year
Bill.
2022.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to another good year.
Do we have any other new business to take care of?
Not for reorganization. And then you can adjourn the reorganization meeting and open the regular meeting and hearing, then proceed.
We will adjourn the reorganization meeting of the Newberry Township Zoning Hearing Board and open our regular meeting for the Newberry Township Zoning Hearing Board. We will be hearing docket 22-01, Amanda Jones, 1027 Yoakumtown Road, Edders, PA 17319. Applicant is requesting a variance to section 204.2 of the zoning ordinance to sell sundry food products, fruits, vegetables, craft items, and hold homesteading workshops on the property located at 1027 Yoakumtown Road, Edders, PA 17319, being tax parcel number 39-000-QG-0159.00-00000 in a residential growth zone. That is a lot of zeros. Are you Mrs. Jones? Miss Jones, I apologize. Would you rise so I could swear you in for testimony? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Could you please go to the podium to give your testimony? Could you again please give your name and place of residence for us?
Amanda Jones, 1027 Yoakumtown Road, Edders, Pennsylvania.
And Mrs. Jones, I apologize. Marcus, was the property posted?
Yes. Property was posted on 2/14/2022.
And was it advertised?
It was for February 10th and February 17th of this month.
And is there any additional information you would like to give the board?
It was posted at the Township Building on the 7th, on February 7th, and it was mailed out to the residents, 300 feet radius at February 10th.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Ms. Jones. Is the 1027 Yoakumtown Road, is that your primary residence?
Yes, I still have some unknown about the 1025 part of my address, but I have two addresses. Apparently I have two different mailboxes, but 1027 is what the real estate listing is that I purchased.
And that's, the home's number is 1027?
The bottom level is numbered 1025, and the top level is
Okay.
1027, but I purchased the whole house.
When did you acquire the property?
December 29th.
And was that of 2021? As you're looking at your property, say you're looking at it from Yoakumtown Road, Yoakumtown Road runs pretty much north and south. correct? South, north and south?
East,
East and west.
east and west.
Can you describe what lies to the north of your property? So adjacent to the north?
Behind the property would be probably over 2 acres of woods that I have. Farm to the right, and my only visible neighbor to the left.
Residential? Residences?
Yes.
What's behind your property? On the other side of the property line, beyond your 2 acres?
I did see one house and more woods.
What's across the street to the south?
I see a fence line and a chicken coop. It's somebody's backyard from the side street.
Marcus, are those residences on the other side of Yokuntown?
I believe, yes, there's a residence, but then just slightly, I guess that'd be southeast, would be another farm.
Okay. Would you describe the structures on your property, please? What's existing?
Right now, it's just the residence. There is no outbuildings.
What kind of
currently.
residence is it?
2-story, 1880 farmhouse.
Okay. There was 2 residences at one time?
Still is.
Okay, is it the second one rented out an
No,
apartment?
I intended to use the first floor to do the kitchen, to license that as the limited food establishment. I'm not allowed to do that. And I'm up on the second floor,
You said you have no outbuildings on the property?
not currently.
No sheds, no garages, no structures of any sort?
This garage here is proposed, right?
Yes. First thing I want to build it, well, I got, not sure if the greenhouse is first or the garage is first. And I should have included a plot. They had surveyed the property before I called it. And gave me all those plot drawings.
Look, tell the board what you want to do. We're making a record here this evening, so it's up to you to testify and make that record for the board. So tell us what you'd like to do.
I am a homesteader, and I would like to utilize this property to the maximum for homesteading, producing, growing anything that I can that will allow, that this property will allow me to grow and then produce. And that includes the canning, the dehydrating, the freeze drying. There, I have a line of products that I make for rabbits, and I make crafts. I do sewing projects, I do felting projects, pretty much anything. I do boards, anything that I can grow and turn into something craft-wise. But part of the homesteading is you live off your land and then you share or sell your surpluses. And so my first goal for the property would be able to license one of the kitchens as a limited food establishment, to be able to do my canning and my dehydrating and freeze drying. And the variance would also be needed to sell on the property, to be able to establish a roadside stand, if you will. I would really like to have the garage, to have one bay of the garage to be set up as what I'm calling a roadside stand. I'm not sure your terminology here with your zoning, but some kind of selling space to be able to allow me to sell my surpluses. That would bring a limited amount of traffic onto the property, but it's not something, it is meant to be a part-time business. I do work full-time outside of the home, so it's just a side hustle, a passion, a lifestyle, and almost an obligation to live this way and promote it and share it with others. And then part of that is also having the workshops on the property to show how other people can live like this. And could be as easy as canning in the kitchen, if that would be allowed, or if we would have to be in the garage, doing whatever workshops that we can that are homestead relating, or just going into the woods and foraging and maybe having a mushroom walk or a wild edible walk. But just sharing the knowledge and getting like-minded people together and creating the community and the networking. And also bridging between farmers and producers, because part of my goal is to live the local war lifestyle and to promote that and to promote the buying local, supporting local. So I need, just for me personally, I need to find my local farmers and find my organic beef sources, and I need to find my organic lards that I can make my soaps that I make. So I need to find my own network now that I'm new to this community, and I want to be able to help everybody else too. So I want to help build that network, and there's ways to do that, and that's also routes for me to be able to sell and share, but also I would love to be able to have other people to display stuff, other local producers, to be able to have a little corner in my shop or stand to at least leave their business card for the local farms, so that anybody else coming can see the local options and help other people.
I took a trip there today. I noticed there's a circle driveway
Yes.
and one's shut off.
Yes.
Is that going to stay shut off?
No, the previous owner had done that because she had said that everybody was doing turnarounds in it, that it was just, people were using it as a turnaround lane and it was so easy to go in one end and out the other, so I just kept it up, but eventually it'll come down and I'll just park there for now until things get set up. But that would be, the ideal would just be have an in and an out for traffic, for the limited traffic that would be coming to workshops or this thing.
So you are going to continue to live there, what?
Oh, yes, yeah,
Okay.
this will be my forever home.
Are you the only employee that's
Yes.
going to be there? Okay.
My mom is just jumping at the bit to help me with something. So she would love nothing more than for me to have a nice big greenhouse that she could come work in. But this property isn't suited for that kind of thing. So I'll have a nice little small greenhouse like the one that I put in my packet. She'll probably visit as much as she can, but it would not be a paid position. I wouldn't be that big, but I would need staff.
How large will the greenhouse be?
I think the one that I put in there was
What's the size of it?
10 by 12. Just a tiny little hobby greenhouse. And I put the various things in here, just not knowing when I didn't have the access to the zoning. Like I didn't know your policies with water containment and collection systems. I added that, like stuff like that I was anticipating on doing. My composting area. Didn't have my garage yet.
Are you going to be selling compost?
No, that's for personal use.
Are you selling products and goods and crafts and food items from other farmers, other individuals on your property? Is that the intent?
It would be nice to have the space to allow like 25% of other people's goods.
Is that what you are going to do?
I'm allowed to do that.
But everything you make, you're going to sell on the property, correct?
Correct.
What for signs were you thinking about putting up?
I did start playing around with that. I am in meeting with a student for the Pennsylvania Law Clinic to work on the business structure part of things and whether I would need two legal entities, one for homestead, one for the product line, or whether I can just do one. So if I would have to have two legal entities, then that would be the variable of whether I have to have two logos or two signs. Or, but on page 6 was an example of how little, just the one sign with the open hours or the open flag. You need to read your signage ordinance to see.
What is the ordinance markers for the sign? For
To the ordinance,
yeah, I think it's a 2x2 sign.
I believe you're correct, but I'd have to confirm that.
I think the total of the sign would be 2x2.
A 2x2?
I think so, if it's allowed.
And all specifically be in the ordinance, right, about like how far from the road and lighting is allowed. The other,
What's the square footage of your house? For the main floor, the footprint? What's its dimensions?
I was told they're 550 each floor.
550 square
Yeah.
feet?
Yes. I do plan on having a small apiary of up to 5 plus or minus beehives back in the woods,
What size is that going to be?
just 5 or 6 hives.
No, what size is the apiary? How, dimensions? I understand it's 5, but how many feet, how many square feet? How tall are they going to be? Details are needed of what you're going to do and what you reasonably intend to do with that, so. Because that doesn't exist on the property at the present time, so the board needs to learn what you want to do.
Yeah. I don't know exact dimensions of a beehive. I have one coming right now, so, you know, if you say like the size of this podium, stacked,
Okay?
not quite this high if it was full, not quite this long. Couple lined up in a row. Did want clarification on the animals. I do have Angora rabbits, and I thought I saw somewhere that you were classifying rabbits as livestock, or not, or as pets. They're in my house. They're a pet to me, but they are for me to learn how to take care of them, and with the intention of raising them for shearing for their fiber for use, for craft use. I'm not intending to grow rabbits for calling for meat. It's for their fiber production. if permitted. The future would be to have a shed or a converted camper, small, to have 6 to 10 rabbits in it. I wasn't sure when you get into the breeding of rabbits, if then that is considered a kennel by your terms, or I'm not sure what the delineation is with that.
All signage is 517.
What's that?
The signage requirement is 517.
I'm sorry,
I was just telling him that the signage requirements in the ordinance is section 517.
For home occupation, it's 4 square feet, so it's 2 by 4.
Can you have more than one thing on the sign?
Well, the concern is for an individual business use, it's significantly larger than that because it's 1 square foot for a square foot of space that you're using for the building, because it's an individual building use. So it's a good question that you're asking as to what are the limitations regarding the signage for this. Take a look at page, it starts on page 206 of the ordinance. These are variance requests, use variance requests. Okay, for a commercial enterprise on a residential property, it's not a home occupation. They want to present it as a home occupation, then you're going to need a variety of variances from section 525.30 to make it a home occupation, and the largest of which is, the intent here is to use an accessory structure for that occupation, which is not allowed under 525.30. So, and the applicant, as I understood it, is going right from the beginning, is having it's basically a commercial business. Making, growing, producing products, crafts, things of that nature, and selling them to the general public on the property. So there will be traffic coming in or out of the property by customers, correct? Yeah. So, now the ordinance does have, we do have provisions for livestock and non-commercial keeping of livestock that are in there, but it doesn't define rabbits, it says large animals. And if you look at the definition in the early part of the book for that, it arguably, is an animal, the rabbit that size.
It's an animal.
And is it a large one or is it a pet? And it doesn't include pets. The ordinance definition, I believe, states that. However, in subsequent sections of the ordinance, it deals with where are you? Talks about density of animals under, non-commercial keeping of livestock. I think that's under, 525.41, which doesn't apply here, because that's for basically a rural resource zone. That's not for this particular zone. And the animals are grouped in there by weight for purposes of density. So you'll see that. So where do rabbits fit? That's what the board needs to decide.
You're saying they would have to go for a commercial isn't allowed in the residential.
Right.
And most of this is what she's asking for is commercial.
Yes. As I understand it, yes. If that's not correct, then Ms. Jones can correct me on that. So, I mean, you are growing your own food. You're going to have your own vegetables, your own composting. You're going to do your own crafts for yourself within your own home. And all of those are individually, as I understand your application, are hobby items. But the difference here, however, is you're taking those hobby items and now going to sell them to the public on a regular basis. So, and you're going to build a structure in order to do that, so it's not going to be sold out of the home, correct? So
The intent would not be to,
Okay.
to have the store in the house. The kitchen license, limited food establishment.
And that's licensed by the Pennsylvania Department of Health. That's what your intention is? Or
Well, the
is that local?
application is, says the Department of Agriculture.
Or agriculture, excuse me, yeah. Okay.
Is the poultry separate too, or would that fall along the same lines as runs?
Poultry under the definition of large animals does, I believe, fall under that.
So I think I asked.
Livestock, excuse me, livestock, not large animals, that's not how it's defined.
As
Item
it
number
is.
144, page 30 of the ordinance, it's under Article 1, says livestock, large animals including but not necessarily limited to the following: horses, ponies, donkeys, mules, cattle, sheep, goats, or swine, but also includes poultry. Livestock shall not be considered domestic pets.
But you allow 6 chickens in residential zones right now?
I have to,
You would have to apply for.
That's-
chicken permit.
yeah, that's an issue that's regulated by the township itself. That's not under the zoning
You
ordinance.
would not be allowed to have roosters and only up to 6 hens.
Yeah.
Does that apply to just chickens or ducks, turkeys, guinea?
That's the way it reads, it applies to just chickens.
So if I wanted to do turkeys,
I know they just, the township just had an ordinance on this chicken ordinance, they just adopted that, didn't they, or?
What's that?
The chicken ordinance,
Chicken
they just put in not too long ago,
A couple years ago.
was it?
and that's great that they're doing that, some townships still not allowing chickens in residential areas.
I think, yeah, what Stanley was getting at is, it sounds like it's less of a home occupation than it would read for the ordinance.
Would be good if this was a rural resource zone, because then you have a rural occupation, which gives a good bit more flexibility. We've had those before, and it allows things like the rural occupation to be located within an accessory structure up there, but it does not. Now, I understand, and Marcus, I need you to confirm, if you could, that what I understand in the application and materials submitted, that the zoning line is apparently fairly close to this property?
Yes.
Or is it run along the property line, or what?
It runs along the south part of the property line.
All right. So if you're facing it, it's really going to be the, I guess, east.
To your right.
To the east side, to the right? And that's the rural resource zone on that side, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a farm right down the road from this property.
Actually, her property, the southern part of her property, or eastern part of her property, I'm sorry, the eastern part of her property, it butts up against a farm.
And your property is heavily wooded, is it not, to the rear? How are you gonna handle parking on your property?
There is a gravel millings area now that is pretty extensive for the limited amount of people that I would have coming on would be adequate as is, unless there are additional parking requirements, like lines or such that I would need to do.
So it's basically a circle entry and exit, or semicircle, right?
Correct.
You're gonna have your folks and your customers parking in the driveway when they pull into the property.
I have space that they could park in the grass as well.
Okay.
There was an ordinance for the parking that I had looked at, depending on whether it was home occupation or something else.
Would this property was, do you know what it was previously used as?
2-unit.
Apartments. And the parking area, would you say it's larger than the footprint of the home itself? I think if I look at it, it looks probably
To me,
one
it
and a half
seemed
to two
really
times
big.
larger than the area that the house occupies.
Okay. You don't have any proposed dimensions of your parking area?
No.
You can't tell us, and how many cars are gonna be parked in that area at any one time, that it could fit as a maximum?
The real estate listing had listed it as 8 parking spaces, but I don't know the basis for that information.
If you put cars, and you if cars are parked that are perpendicular to the garage there, or even angled, how much room is there for a car to pass if it turns into your access drive and then needs to leave? Can 2 cars pass each other within that driveway? Are you planning on extending that circular driveway or parking area?
I can.
Is there any reason why the garage couldn't be placed elsewhere on the property or further back?
And there's room to move a little bit with the garage and the size of the garage as well. I was thinking the 3-bay would need to
All the information that you've put in your application that's submitted to the board is still true and correct, is that right? Is that all? Okay. Save some time with that.
It drops off quite a bit behind where the garage is gonna be, right?
Yeah, it has
Probably 10, 15-foot drop.
and then I have like 3 valleys and 2 valleys and 3 ridges.
So you'll probably never use much of that ground back there.
Oh, I will use every inch of it I can. Not gonna level it, I'm not gonna thin it, but I will learn to do what I can with what I have. I will be forest gardening, I will be mushrooming, I will be ginsenging, I will, whatever I can get to grow in those woods. There's really beautiful berry patches back there now. Has some spice bush.
I know the driveway, the way I looked at today, doesn't look real good to go have cars going in and out one way with a lot of traffic on that road.
I'm
I
sorry,
don't
say
know,
that again?
But having a circle driveway, for as big as it is and on that hill, it looks pretty dangerous. That's my opinion. I guess it's been there for the apartments, but they're not gonna have cars running in and out for business. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't see it that way, but that's what your perception was. I do think people go too fast on that.
Huh?
I think people do travel
They
too
do.
fast on that road.
With the driveway, is it your intent to have that a one-way?
Yes.
Driveway?
And in and out.
directional signs, enter and exit.
I would, do not know.
Stanley, would she have to apply for a commercial variance, come back for a commercial one?
She's here now for it.
For the commercial one now?
That's what we're doing now.
Okay.
This is not a home occupation. If you want to treat it as such, then the analysis is different. The information needed to be different. You'll have to grant different variances for that. But the presentation started out with, this is going to be homegrown products but sold publicly, commercially.
The way you have the garage here now, that's gonna take up most of the driveway in the backside, right? The three-car garage.
A good chunk of it, there'd be some grass still on
The lower side.
the, I'm looking at the property on the right, and then
That's where you're
majority
gonna
of,
put, you were planning on putting your rabbit hutches and stuff.
yeah, tuck them in on the other side, but that's not, doesn't have to be there. It's just,
Is there any reason why you couldn't do your workshop somewhere else, or sell your products somewhere else, such as a co-op, farmer's market, other roadside stands that you could join or participate, such as in the neighboring zones, or agricultural zone or rural resource zone to do that?
there's definitely avenues to pursue sales off-site. It would decrease the burden to have the,
Yes, it would be beneficial, but is there any reason why you have to do it on this particular property? Changing the use of the property to a commercial use, and that's a hardship, and it's a pretty stiff standard to grant a hardship, so that I need to understand what is the hardship here that we're dealing with to allow that particular use, so, as it's been described today. So there does make a difference if you're looking at this from a home occupation point of view, or you're looking at this from a commercial enterprise point of view, with production and manufacture of goods on the site, which are then sold and displayed on the site openly to the public. So,
I was over today and drove around. There isn't much, there's enough there for 6 parking places probably. But you drive, have a circle driveway, there's not gonna be a park hardly any. I don't know where you'll park at all hardly. What do you think, Mary? Were you over? It just, it's a bad situation with being on the slope. The one driveway is higher, probably 4 feet or higher than the other one, the circle. Really goes up a hill.
notice the elevation change.
You have any questions, Doc?
One question I do have is, when we're looking at a home occupation as opposed to a commercial operation, if a home occupation, I would think that someone who was selling the goods that they were growing would be selling them for an amount that would reimburse them so much for the, whatever they put into the area. But I thought you mentioned that you were looking at that as a means of revenue. Am I right in thinking that? In other words, if you have a bunch of tomatoes and it costs someone $50 to grow these tomatoes, and they get so many tomatoes, and they divide that up, and they're selling those, they're recouping what they put into them. But if you go in the area of making a profit on these as a point of revenue for you, does that not make it more commercial rather than a home occupation?
I think that's what Stanley was saying.
That's what I said.
So I guess my question is,
Yes.
are you depending upon the products that you grow or make to be revenue for you?
Yes, it would be an income stream.
It would be an
for-
income. So you would say if it cost you $2 to make a tomato, you'd be selling the tomato for $3
Correct.
with a $1 profit, just to, okay. The other question I have for you is, are you planning on doing any excavation at all to the area? In other words, if they were talking about the driveway, and I live down there, so I go by all the time. You do have to have parking places. And I thought you mentioned the fact that you were saying, marking them out or putting some type of marking on there, like park here, park here. Are you planning on doing any excavation work that would allow you to make the driveway more manageable and to not have it, someone trying to go in and come out, and maybe there would be too much cars coming up and down the road would cause an issue and a problem and a safety issue is what I'm talking about. But my question is, are you planning on doing any excavation work?
I wasn't originally planning on it because I didn't think that the parking was an issue. So if it's something that we need to address, then I can go forward with that. But it's not something that was in my plans because I didn't know that it was an issue.
Right now, the garage is gonna take up part of the parking at the back side, right? If it's in line with the house.
In the grass area, not on the existing.
There isn't a whole lot there. Is there enough room there to put the garage without going down over the
Oh,
bank?
yeah.
Is there?
What were you planning on using the other two? You mentioned selling the produce and crafts and things from one bay and the garage. What were you planning on using the other two for?
Storage and put my vehicle.
When you say storage, do you mean storage for the business or storage for your personal use?
For me, my camping, my kayak, all that kind of stuff needs to go somewhere.
You said 550 square feet for each floor in the home,
Yeah, but I was told they were, I didn't measure them out.
but somewhere in that neighborhood. So if you're using the first floor for a kitchen, then I'm assuming you're thinking that's going to take the majority of the room in that, on that floor would need to be work tables.
It is a very small work area.
Is it?
Yeah, would not be ideal for many cooks in there.
And not
Or
selling
just
any
or
crafts
just
or
any
anything
meats.
from in there. Okay.
That's all she has.
Are you going to have an online business along with this?
I am not a fan of online sales, but I'm not a fan of shipping. Again, that local board mentality. But I would have e-commerce maybe set up as a means for paying, have my products visible online to pay, but I would not be shipping. And to answer the one question earlier about the need or the desire to do this stuff on the homestead, I think it's more just that the lifestyle part of it, where to teach other people and show other people how to do things, it makes sense to do it on the homestead if I'm gonna talk about canning or talk about going for a walk in the woods and harvesting the wild edibles.
Take it these are going to be paid workshops, not volunteer, or are they intended to be? Gratis, if you will.
As part of the
Educational.
as part of the business side of it, it would be a nominal fee for participation. I do other volunteer things, but other people do come to my property just to have tea or to have a family dinner every Sunday, but I know you don't need a variance or permission to have family gatherings and have friends over, but
For the workshops, would there be classes in the sense of customers participating in and making crafts, or doing actual canning, or other product
hands-on.
manufacturing on the hands-on in the property?
Correct.
Do you expect a lot of cars for that workshop, half a dozen or
it's-
anything? Would you put a limit on it?
My thought would be like 10 people max is what I'm thinking, the scope, the size of it, but it's not meant to be a large endeavor in any aspect of the business. Very personal, very small.
What do you consider your hours of operation for, if it's broken down differently by task or activity, then I'll take that as well. So, for example, you have a shop in the garage in a bay that you're going to sell things, what you grow, what you make, et cetera, on the property. How often, when is that going to be open? What hours?
My anticipation would be like a Friday and Saturday, 1 to 4, 1 to 5 type thing. Very limited, 4 or 5 hours a day, maybe
Okay.
2 to 3 days a week. Workshops, 1 to 2 workshops a week maximum.
Because you do say 3 maximum workshops per week. When would they be held?
During the
Evenings,
dur-
afternoons, daylight, Saturdays, Sundays as well?
Usually afternoons, could be a Saturday, probably not a Sunday.
Do you plan on having anything in the garden area that would be something that someone would come and pick their own?
No, I wouldn't do you pick. The property's not that large. Uncontrolled outside, people touching my trees in my garden.
And if you have items for sale, you would have those items only out, like if vegetables and that type of thing, it would only be during your open hours that you would be selling those. In other words, a lot of times you see a small stand beside the road, and there are tomatoes there, and they have a jar, and they say, get your tomatoes and put in your, $1 or $2, whatever the case may be. Would you intend to do anything like that so that there would be traffic going in and out when you weren't there or weren't open?
My ideal would be to have that confined to the store area,
When you're open?
and just have those set hours and days, very limited.
So there'd be no evening hours after dark?
No, I work evenings. Would have to be done by 6 o'clock. Except on a Saturday, I could go to dark on a Saturday.
Anything else?
Yeah, it's up to you folks. If you have all your questions answered or not, or you need more information. The application is pretty thorough. It's a good bit of detail in it.
Did you have any other questions?
I have one more question.
Sure.
I'm sorry. When it was advertised and when the homeowners within the area were sent letters, did anyone have any issues or problems? Any of your neighbors?
I did not receive any calls on this, and I'm not aware of the township receiving any calls that are any concerns, questions or concerns on this.
Thank you.
Was there anybody else here to give testimony for or against this application? Thank you.
No questions from the audience? No, thank you.
Probably,
I would make a motion to go into executive session
yeah.
for
Recess for deliberation.
recess for delivery for a few minutes. I make a motion on that.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second, to recess for deliberation. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is in recess for deliberation.
Is the door open, Marcus? I guess it's going to be. It's getting chilly in here.
I was just thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah, warm is there.
Call to order this meeting of the Newberry Township Zoning Hearing Board.
Back out of recess.
Excuse me. Back from recess. I think we had, a question about the Yoakum Town Road. Is the road there at your house, is it on a slope? Is there a grade there, the road?
I can't speak intelligently about that.
So is it like like if you're heading towards Rudders from the house, would you be going uphill, downhill, or is it flat?
I think that it would be there's a slight going
Uphill.
up in that direction.
And if you were pulling out of your driveway and you might make a turn to go uphill, can you see, is there a good line of sight there? Is there any curves in the road there?
I can see in both directions, pulling out of my driveway. I think a ways down, if I'm headed towards Rudders, a ways down, there must be a peak of a hill somewhere down there. 'Cause I can't see to the square or, to the stop sign.
To the intersection there?
But I have good visibility in both directions.
Did we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny the application as presented to us tonight.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. We appreciate all your effort in your application and your testimony tonight. It's just that, what you want to do doesn't meet the standards and requirements for a variance. So that is why we denied it.
That's why we deliberated for such a while. The board really did look at all the options and all the angles for it. It just doesn't meet the legal requirement for granting variance and no hardship. So that doesn't mean you could try something else, but for this one, no.
So is that the commercial side of it, that's separate from the home occupation side of being able to license the kitchen to do the canned goods part of it?
I'd suggest that you look at the requirements for a home occupation under the ordinance and familiarize yourself with that. Because a home occupation they're certainly allowed in this particular zone, but the scope and nature of what you've proposed is beyond is a good bit beyond what is considered to be for a home occupation. So the answer to your question is because it's more of the commercial nature like that, yes. Okay, you've limited space, you've got access issues, safety issues, but even with the home occupation, there'd be some difficulty and some variances would be required with that. Home occupation really is in the home, okay, and part of that. So that it may allow you to do some of the things you want to do.
Yeah, just separating out the canning part of it, the producing my canned goods from my kitchen on the first floor. At, licensing by the limited food establishment requirements. To be able
Well,
to approve.
that may be, but, and that goes into the home occupation as well as to whether or not, because there's no manufacturing of products there. However, it's connect that with, it's telling them on the property, it's not, you can't do it out of an accessory building. And if you do it out of an accessory building, you still have, you know, if you're gonna have people and customers come to your house, that impacts, you know, the home occupation. So, I think you need to take a look at that, and you can have more discussion, you know, with our codes officer perhaps about that, but, it's gonna limit, you know, a good bit. So, yeah, it is the commercial side, because that's what you presented, so. You've got a lot of people coming, a lot of customers coming, you've got limited parking, limited access, et cetera, and that's, this is not a commercial zone, it's a residential zone, so the standard of proof is a good bit higher when you wanna change the use from the residential use to something else. So it's a matter of scale. So, yes, you have a good bit of hobbies there. Good luck with those. Doesn't say you can't have your hobbies in your house, but it's just how you go about it with the outside. So I would not rule out that you couldn't come back under some other home occupation theory. It's just gonna be a much different scope and nature than what you presented here, perhaps. Okay?
Thank you. Next, we will be hearing docket 22-02, Joseph R. Dirk, 870 Conewago Avenue, Manchester, PA 17345. Applicant is requesting a variance to section 203.3 design standards of the zoning ordinance to reduce the minimum front yard setback of 35 feet to 20 feet for a dwelling on the property located at 870 Conewago Avenue, Manchester, PA 17345, being tax parcel number 39-000-0180.00-00000 in a suburban residential zone. Anyone giving testimony, could you please rise and be sworn in? Yes, I apologize. I don't believe I swore you in earlier, Marcus, so can we do that? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Was the, I apologize, was the property posted?
Yes, February 14th, 2023.
And was it advertised?
Yes, it was February 10th and the 17th of February as well.
Is there any additional information you'd like to get the board about this application?
The only thing I can say is it was posted in the township building on February 7th, and it was mailed out to the residents within 300 feet of the residence for the application on the 10th of February.
All right, thank you. Now, if there's anyone that would like to give testimony for the application, if you could please rise and I swear you in, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Could you go to the podium? Thank you.
And my name is John Elliott. I'm an attorney with Ream, Carr, Markey, Walsh & Hunter in New York. I'm representing the applicant, Joe Dirk.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, and your, Joe Dirk, and your residence is at 870 Conewago Avenue, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, thank you. All right, sir, if you would like to give your presentation.
Sure. First, could you please confirm your name and address for the record?
Joseph Dirk, 870 Conewago Avenue, Manchester, PA 176.
As it was indicated earlier, you're seeking a variance from section 203.3, the design standards, which require a front setback of 35 feet, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, can you tell us first just a little bit about your property and what it is that
So I bought a undeveloped property back in July of last year. It said it was 0.55 acres. Subsequent survey showed it's only 0.45 acres. So it's actually smaller than the deed says. I'm still working on getting that correct. About 2/3 of the property is within the 100-year floodplain. And so I'm asking to build a house just outside the 100-year floodplain. And to get a house, I have 8 children, so to get a house big enough, with enough bedrooms and everything, I'm keeping it very narrow, 30 feet deep house, trying to minimize the request I'm asking. But that would result in needing a 20-foot setback as opposed to 30.
And other than, are there any other issues with regard to where to place the house other than the floodplain or location of the well?
Yeah, so the well kind of dictates, I was asked to keep the well 10 feet from the garage. Obviously, we have side setbacks as well that I want to be in compliance with. And just, we've jockeyed to get this as far from the road as possible, because I don't want to be near the road. I want to be as far from the road as possible, too. And, you know, based on the needs of the size of the house and the lot, I can't, my architect have not been able to get us any further from the road than this. And there's a graphic that was submitted that demonstrates that with this floodplain shaded. So we have a 1-foot tolerance to the 100-year floodplain of 282 feet elevation above sea level.
You had, along with your application, submitted some exhibits, is that correct?
Yeah, so one of the questions was, is this going to change the nature of the neighborhood? This is just a sampling. There's probably 30 homes, 40 homes within a quarter mile that all are not in compliance with the standard. So, in fact, my neighbor is even closer than what I'm asking for.
So, and that, you're referring to the photographs? that
Yes,
you
the
exhibited?
photographs, I'm sorry, yes.
And other than that, is there, you also included, I think, a site plan or drawing?
Yeah, I
to
drew
show-
some sketches of the house and what we're looking at right now, at least as of 4 weeks ago. I'm not looking for anything exotic, just you need a lot of bedrooms for a lot of kids.
Right, you said currently this is undeveloped.
Currently undeveloped. I've put a temporary power, I've had a well drilled, and I paid for a connection to the city sewer. So I have utilities kind of in place. Hope to be applying for a permit here in the next month and get started.
Right, so if the zoning board approves the request, you would be able to place the home completely outside the floodplain?
Correct. It would be exactly where it's listed now. Then in the plot, it shows like a little stagger. That's because that's the roof line. The foundation's actually just a rectangle.
I'd like to, you've touched through some of these, I'd like to go through the variance requirements under section 705.4, just to sort of marry up your testimony with the legal requirements. Number one, first requirement for variance is that there are unique physical circumstances or conditions that are unique to your property. Just again, what are the
Yeah, so
conditions?
the northern 2/3 of the lot is in the 100-year floodplain, which is defined as 282 feet above sea level elevation.
And I guess obviously the ordinance does not allow you to build.
Yeah, not without like ridiculous engineered pillars and tremendous costs I could never afford to do, and flood insurance and all of those things that would have to go. It's infeasible for me to build in a floodplain.
And obviously that is not something that you created, this is just a
Correct.
condition.
This is the natural flow of the ground. It's been this way. One of the trees we cut down was over 200 years old, been dead for like 40 years. I mean, just a nice old property. It's
Okay.
6-foot diameter.
All right, number two, I think we kind of touched on this, because of those physical circumstances or conditions, there's no possibility that it can be developed in strict conformity with the provisions of the ordinance, and that the variance is necessary to enable reasonable use.
Correct. If I was to make this house even wider and try to narrow it, I have to move the whole thing further towards the road, because if you look at the floodplain, it's kind of at a diagonal. So it's, we worked through many design options, and there's nothing feasible for a normal floor plan that I can get any further from the road.
And number three, the unnecessary hardship has not been created by the
Correct. A lot existed that way before I purchased it.
Number 4, if the variance authorized, it will not alter the essential character of the zoning district or neighborhood.
Yes. So again, there's a number of pictures I just drove around and took. I could take that many more in another 10 minutes. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of properties way closer than what I'm asking for.
So by doing this, you would not
I would-
change the character of the nearby?
No, actually,
properties?
me building a house would change the character because it would be by far the most expensive house on the subdivision or whatever you want to call it. So,
Okay. The number 5, the variance if authorized will represent the minimum of the variance that will afford.
yes, like I said, I've been working with an architect for 4 months and we can't figure out a feasible way to get us any further from it. I'm asking for the minimum.
Are there any questions from the board members?
Size of the house is 30 by what?
40 with an attached 2-car
What are your,
garage.
thank you, what are your side yard setbacks
Side setbacks?
that are proposed? Yeah, I don't know if I can see them on the,
The western is like 15 feet
okay.
and the eastern would be 125, 10, 60. Eastern would be 50.
East side is a 50-foot side yard setback, okay. You said this is the only feasible floor plan that you could put together for a house?
It's, as looking for the number of kids I have, this was the most compact. I mean, I don't even have like a laundry closet or a linen closet. I don't have a toy room. I don't have storage.
So, all right. Good, thank you.
Don't have a formal
Do
dining
you
room.
have did you have a plan, or maybe I'm just not seeing it in what you submitted with your application, that shows the floodplain line?
It's that shaded black area.
Yeah, is it?
Oh, it's white. I'm sorry, it's white on that.
The shaded white, so, yeah, if you could just show me so I can.
This
All
line
right,
there.
yeah.
That's just a deck, a proposed deck sticking off the back.
Got it.
That's what that is.
Okay. No basement for your house?
Actually, as of 3 days ago, I would have said no. The engineering firm that's working on my final grade plan told me if I raised the house up 1 more foot, I could put an 8-foot basement and be at 283.5 above sea level. So that is suddenly has become a potential option. I didn't think so up until Thursday of last week.
All right. And if I understood, you said you were connected to public sewer?
I paid for connection
Yeah.
to a public sewer. It was not in existence when I moved, when I
All
bought
right.
the property.
There public sewer in this area, Marcus?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. One-story house,
2.
2-story?
Both stories are in the.
Okay,
back.
any accessory structures, or?
Nope.
Okay, was your garage included with the house as part of
Yes,
your
that's
floor
the
plan? Western side?
the western.
Yep, there it is. Thank you. 2-car garage?
Yep.
If you could put a basement in there, how much would you have to fill it if you moved it back a little bit to get above the flood zone? If you're 8 feet basement, your flood zone isn't,
So, my understanding, there's 2 different requirements for building flood zones. One's you have to have your bottom floor above the floodplain.
Right.
2, you can't be in the floodplain. So even with a basement, I can't move the house further back. I can't.
you wouldn't be allowed to have a basement.
can't
You could
fill-
build the house, but no basement.
Wait, one at a time.
Sorry, repeat the question, please.
You could build the house, but no basement in the back, if you moved it back some.
No, I'm 1 foot. I only have 1 foot to be in the floodplain. I can't move back any
But
further.
if you kept your floor level of your house up, you couldn't move back.
No, the way building and floodplains work, you then require engineered pillars and footings and things like that. You have to keep the floor above, but then you also cannot be in the floodplain at all. It's both. So I
Okay.
can't move back even with no
Can't
basement.
fill, can't fill in.
No.
They don't let you fill in floodplains?
Yeah, no,
Yeah. So I can't build in.
I just thought maybe if you dug borders back there, you still couldn't.
Still can't do that. That's not allowed.
Looked like that's about the only empty lot
It was.
down there, yeah, everything else.
Other
is
than,
already built.
if you go about 6, 8 lots to the east, there's a guy that's got a vineyard.
Oh,
And he's
yeah,
got
I
like
did
3
see
or 4
that.
lots, and he
Yeah.
came and talked to me, because he's looking at subdividing it up and selling that up. And he's got sewer connections on a few of them, and he was curious how much a sewer connection costs. Thinking about that, but I think he's a lot lower in elevation, so I think all that's in the.
Yeah, all that's in, yeah.
You said you had the property surveyed?
Yes.
Okay. And it's only 0.45 acres, so. That's a-
Yeah.
That's a substandard lot, because you need minimum of 20,000 square feet for a lot acre, so if you got 0.45, you're less than 20,000 square feet, so. We've got a nonconformity with your lot. Council will know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I had talked to Marcus about, he told me that applied to subdivisions, like creation of subdivisions, and not to the,
Marcus, I'm looking at 2033, home on agricultural uses with, oh, it says both utilities. Yeah.
I had gotten this later, I can distribute it. A lot is actually, this is back from 1929 or whatever, when subdivision was created. And a lot is
It's
actually.
already existing, so.
That's what I mean, it's a non-conforming use, that's,
The lot is 110, 109, 108, and 107 combined.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
So they were originally zoned for basically a trailer park. You have barely enough room to put a trailer on each.
designed for a trailer park, yes.
Yeah, that's what was subdivided originally.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll mark this one, applicant's exhibit number 1, which consists of 4 pages.
Yeah, so just real quickly, what you see here is the original subdivision on the first page. The second one just demonstrates the flood zones to show that 282-foot number. Third one shows the neighboring lot, which talks about a 50-foot right-of-way going down that road. And then the fourth one is the actual survey showing where the right-of-way is only a few feet off of the road. And then you can again see that base floodplain line at 282.
Thank you.
and what did you say you could build at?
I have to be above 282, both geographically, as well as the lowest floor must be above that.
So you're looking at like that 283 line is like
Yeah, so
basically
we're
where
looking
the
at.
house will be?
We're looking at a 282.5 contour line is where the house would be, and the bottom floor would be at 283.5, so beefed up, like raised from that. Does that make sense?
In your development here, you had said other homes are set back closer than what you're proposing for your house. Two questions, really. Does that include the homes on either side of you?
The home immediately to my east
Yes.
is 25 feet from the center line, 26 and change from the center line of the road.
Okay.
Her setback is
said it was originally designed, and it does look that way for a mobile home park. You have permanent structure, permanent foundation. Are the other homes in the neighborhood temporary, mobile, or are they permanent structures?
Yes.
I thought you might say that.
It is very diverse.
Okay. But there are other permanent structures that are less than the 35-foot
My neighbor to my east.
setback.
Yeah.
That's my point. Thank you.
On the last page of your exhibits, the bottom right-hand corner, is that the neighbor to your east?
Mhm.
Gotta say it verbally.
Yes.
Any other questions?
The size of the lot, Stanley, was under the, okay with the size of the lot?
It's substandard if it's at .45, yes. But it's non-conforming use. But it's always been that way. You didn't create the .45.
I did not. It's been listed as .55 since 1929, but a survey showed it's only .45.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I looked at it on the York County map, and I saw it said .4, so when you said 5.5 on the map.
Yeah, and
So when
so,
you said that, I was kinda,
and if you look at that one handout I handed out, you see that 50-foot easement?
Mhm.
Originally, the township legend goes, originally the township was gonna build a boat ramp, a boat launch down there, so they kept that easement. In 1983, it was petitioned by the neighbor to the west to be vacated. The township agreed, and then question marks. Now, the law states that the vacation should have been 25 feet to the east and 25 feet to the west. In 2005, when they bought the property, they put the entire 50 feet on their deed. And so there's a mystery 25 feet I've looked at pursuing, but attorneys tell me it's $5,000 to $10,000 in 1 to 2 years to get 25 feet, so not worth it. So I'm not pursuing that in any way, but like that has always been also a potential factor in this. Like, it's basically just a drainage belt, like, I mean, it's a big ditch, so it's not valuable property. So,
Well, even if you had that, that doesn't change your setback issue.
correct. Yeah, that wouldn't change that at all.
Interesting.
Let's say my survey cost me $9,300 because of all the work and history and old documentation, trying to figure out why does the lot not match, why does nothing fit, what's wrong.
Hmm.
It was a tremendous undertaking.
You must really love the Conewago Creek.
I did not know this going into it.
That is my conclusion.
In fact, I went back to the previous owner, I'm like, dude, you didn't sell me all the land you promised, like, you want to like make this right? No.
Do you and your family fish then?
A whole lot more suddenly. We'll be applying for a variance for commercial selling fish next time. No.
Good for you. And if you're a boater, then you're in good shape there, so.
There were no more questions, correct? Any more questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 20-foot setback.
Approve the application is submitted?
The application submitted with the 20-foot setback.
No less than 20 feet.
No less than 20 foot.
I'll second.
We have a second in the motion. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I'll do a written decision. We got our 45 days from today. There's a meeting in March. I don't know if I'll have it ready by then. I'll try. But regardless, when the board signs it and sends it off, you'll get that in the mail. So you'll get a copy
Do I need
of
to
it.
wait for that before I apply for a
Nope.
building permit?
No, I was gonna say, you see that fellow over there, and he'll start moving you on to the next step. Your counsel will advise you about proceeding at your own risk going forward. But I didn't see anybody here this evening having any problems with it. But yeah, you can start working forward with Marcus to get your timeline
Thank you, Stan.
underway. Okay?
Pleasure meeting you all, thank
Do
you.
you have,
You too.
do you have a card? I'd appreciate that. Thanks.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you, it's been very slow going.
I can imagine. That was not an easy survey to do, I'm sure. Thank you.
At least you'll have a nice view.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Swing by and take a look sometime. It's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
exactly where I want to
I
live.
drove through yesterday.
Yeah, I was there today.
I don't know if we have any other business to attend.
I have no other business for the board, so.
Oh. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay.
No. Sorry.
That was a slip up, Craig. Hearing none, the motion passes. This